Welcome to the Guiding Brands podcast with your host and chief guide, Karen Vick. This is a podcast for service-based small businesses who want to get a handle on their marketing so they can attract and gain new customers. Welcome to this next episode of the Guiding Brands podcast, where we help small businesses from every walk of life grow and find their footing on this journey called marketing and branding. And today I have a special guest. She was actually the first person I sat down for an interview with myself in a podcast. And Sherri has a special brand that I'm going to be asking her a few questions about that will actually help to inspire you as a business owner. Maybe you are starting out and you're not sure, what niche to select for your business, what direction to take it in, or even what to do. You may be inspired by what Sherri is going to share with us today. So she is a content creator and writer. She has a wealth of experience writing for the beauty, media, cruise, and insurance industries. And her podcast is called Mature Allure. Mature Allure, where she believes that age is not a limitation, but a celebration of life's unique experiences and perspectives. So, welcome to the podcast,
Hi,
Sherri.
Karen. Hey, Karen. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a long time coming. We've been trying to do this for quite some time and life got in the way. So,
Yeah.
it's really awesome to have you here. Can you expand on what I just shared? Anything that you want to tell the audience about yourself, your background, and, who you are, who Sherri is?
Well, first, it's so funny. Like you said, your first time being a guest on someone's podcast was on mine. Well, today, this is my first time being a guest on someone's podcast. So, I love what you do because
Thank you.
branding is interesting. Um, it's fun. The idea of it's fun, but it can be hard and confusing. And I know when I first started Mature Allure or was getting ready to start Mature Allure, I got a lot of pushback from people. Several
Hmm.
people were like, "Well, Mature Allure is a whole nother thing online." I'm like, yes, I know Mature Allure is a whole nother thing online. But just to give you a little bit of background on it, I started an online beauty magazine for women of color back in like 1996. Like before anyone was doing it, 96, maybe 97, 98. It was called Alluring Looks. So there was a section within Alluring Looks, there was hair, makeup, skin, health, fitness, all of the things, and the section for older ladies. And at the time, they were older ladies because I was not mature. I was definitely not mature. So I was like, oh, I'll do something for the older ladies. Let's call it Mature Allure. And like I said, that was back then. I
Hmm.
had that online beauty magazine for about 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
And because of life, like you said, we moved, all kinds of things happened. Finances were crazy. I
Hmm.
had to let it go, and it's always hurt my heart. But also, I've gotten older. And now it's like, wait a minute, mature. Lord, I can't believe I actually was just talking about gray hair. That's pretty much all that was going on back then. But I wanted to do something because I always liked the name. And then when I had the online beauty magazine, my mother loved the name Mature Allure.
Hmm.
And so she passed a few years ago, like maybe
Sorry to
3 years
hear
ago,
that.
before I started. And I said, you know what? I'm mature now. I really am. My friends are all mature. I'm doing this. And
Hmm.
pushback or not, Mature Allure on that other end from the
That's
orange side,
hmm that's a different
that's really
audience.
a
Hmm.
whole different audience. And some of them might even be the same. I would love to have them on the show, the ones that
Hmm.
are actually, just to get that perspective. But mine, if you brand it correctly, people will get it. It won't matter.
Hmm.
And then it's about our own personal mature allure at this age.
Well, you point out, you make a good point about branding and being able to differentiate yourself from the competition, from everybody, the noise out there. And it's called positioning. And you have positioned yourself, with this name that, yes, you got another connotation to it, to a specific audience, and you've positioned yourself as a resource, as a place for them in space, and your brand, as a result, is being developed because of that work that you do. We can think that we are the ones that are controlling the brand, but we're not. So you started by talking about issues that your audience wants to hear about, and then they, in turn, are the ones that are actually going to help you, you know, um, push back. You don't have to do the pushing back. They're going to do it for you because you have an interesting product. And so this is good. I like that. I like that. I mean, sometimes, I had somebody else on this morning, a gentleman, a young man. He actually has a service where he caters to women, and he would actually make a really good guest on your podcast. So we're gonna have
Hmm.
to connect both of you. His service is called Shop. Oh, jeez, I'm telling you, uh, I'm gonna mess up the guy's name now. Um, oh, jeez, he actually is a closet coach. He actually guides people on actually making decisions about their clothing, and his primary audience are actually women,
Oh,
business women.
I would
Yeah,
love to talk to
yeah,
him.
yeah. We met, believe it or not. He was the only male in an all women's organization, a chapter of an organization, and I just
Because
started.
he knows his audience.
Yes, exactly,
He's doing
exactly.
research.
Yes, exactly. Man, my brain just went. I'm gonna remember in a second. Okay, so so you have this idea. You said, you know what, I'm gonna bring this back, and I think I remember reading on your website where you said that, you know what, you're with your mom gone, you want someone to get advice from, to talk to, and so all these guests that you've brought on are actually advising you, right? They're filling in the in your mom's shoes, correct?
They
Yeah,
are. They
yeah.
really are. I think when I realized that I had had a surgery, um, a woman surgery, and I go to the doctor like a year later, and he's like, "Okay, great. I don't need to see you anymore." And I'm kind of like, "Okay, what?" It was a gynecologist, and I was kind of like, "Well, then what do I do now?"
Hmm.
And this is when I kind of knew because I did not have her to talk to. That was in the or before I started Mature Allure. So that was one of the things that was in my mind when creating Mature Allure or starting it was I didn't know, and this was from a health standpoint a health standpoint. I didn't know what to do in that moment. I would have loved to have had someone to talk to. I'm new to this midlife thing. Where do I go?
Yeah, and your friends
So
are all in the same boat, so where do you go?
exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They don't know either. So as I started working on Mature Allure, I said, you know what? I want to have guests on that can answer the questions that other women have, like I do, that are new. Because it seems like one day you think you're hot, sexy, fine, whatever. And the next day you're sitting in midlife, like, what happened to me? When did I start looking like this? What went down? So as I was putting Mature Allure together, I was like, I want to talk about all things mature, whether it's menopause. There are some women who are just having babies for the first time over 40, whether it's beauty, skin, health, traveling, entrepreneurship, anything and everything that women, because we all get older. I mean, the alternative, none of us want. It happens, but if you don't get older, that's what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so just kind of positioning it so where you can come and get answers or at least some advice Find somebody that might know something about what you're going through at this midlife stage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's the whole point.
Yeah, and you have done a really good job of, talking to so many people in this in this span of time, because your podcast is new, right? How
Mhm.
long has it been around?
Woo! It turned a year in
Wow, look at that.
May and April. April.
Wow.
Here's the thing though. I actually had a little bit of an advantage in that I come from a media background.
Mm-hmm.
So getting guests, finding people to talk to, or the concept of so that's a little easier for me. But you're right. A lot of people say, how do you find guests? How do you, girl, like I found you, I
Yeah,
love
you
LinkedIn
just reached
because
out.
Yeah, that's what you have to do. You just have
Yes.
to, and when you're an entrepreneur, you just have to do it. I mean,
Yeah,
I still have people in my head and on my list, like, I want to talk to her.
I
Oh,
see.
not ready yet. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? But you
yeah.
do have to just push past and do it.
Yeah, yeah, so true, so true. I'm going through that myself. I haven't been consistent with the podcast for that reason. I think I hesitate. Wondering, does this person really care about what I do? Will they want to? So awesome.
And
So the audience, yeah, we know they're mature. But what do you consider mature? Who is your ideal listener? Who do you want to be listening to this podcast?
it's funny that you ask that because when I was trying to decide the demographic, I
Hmm.
was like, you know what? I'm just going to say 40.
Okay.
That's a very middle of the road. And if I what my real goal is to have women under 40, 32 and over to
Okay.
start listening. And I say that because a lot of things happen in midlife. Again, one day you're just living your cute little sexy
Yes.
life, and then midlife, and you don't know what's actually going on. One of the big things we deal with is menopause.
Yeah.
But prior to it actually happening,
Yeah.
15
Me
years
too.
can, it could go as far back as 30, 32, and you could be dealing with things that you have no idea are normally midlife
Mm.
issues.
So it's preparing. So you want to
Prepare.
prepare the younger people, and then you
Mhm.
want to
To look forward to.
help the ones that are already in that stage to
Yeah.
maintain and even thrive. I'm not going to
Exactly.
say maintain, because I'm more about the thriving part.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay,
Absolutely.
all right, very cool. In doing that, and what's the feedback been? I know this is one of the questions I told you I would ask you, but it just came to me. What's the feedback been from your audience? How's that been?
The feedback has been extremely positive.
Yeah.
And I think the reason is it's not that there aren't things out there for women in midlife. I think what it is midlife now, our generation is a
It's
little different.
different. Yeah.
So we're not ready yet to just throw in the towel and have a seat and forget
Mm.
about all the things that we want to do and goals and dreams.
Hmm.
So you're finding more things out there for women that are 45, 50, 55, 60, because we're not as invisible as you may think.
Hmm.
We're here.
Hmm.
And so I think for me, my audience, I have not had anything bad said from anyone because I think they're ready for it. And
Right.
not only that, the other thing that I find is just like I said that I approach people like I approach you cinemas, I have people that do that to me. I mean, I've talked to women from Australia. I've talked to women from, like, I did an interview today with a
Wow.
woman from Cape Town, South Africa.
Wow.
I mean, and it's just the idea that here's Mature Allure, like the woman from South Africa said today. Oh, that's a spicy name, Spicy Mature Allure. The idea to that, yes, here's somebody out here talking to us and speaking about us and inviting us to come and talk to us
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
it's a community,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
eventually I'd like to make it a movement.
Nice. And the other thing that just struck me too is the fact that, you know what? we're women in America, there are women in South Africa, Australia, England. We're all going through the same thing, you
Women
know.
everywhere are going
Yes.
through the
Yeah.
same issues as you get
Yeah.
older.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Well, good stuff. So your tagline is tap into it. Where did that come from?
Well, that actually came from the whole differentiating between mature allure, what I'm doing, and the
Mm-hmm.
other mature allure.
Mm.
The
Okay.
idea was, look, as you get older, we're all getting older, we're all mature. But everybody has their own personal allure. What is it about you? What can we talk about to help you tap into your personal mature allure so that you're not afraid of getting older, but more excited about the opportunities that you have down the line? Because I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we think about, oh, well, this is it. Like I said, what's next? Well, the idea is to lean into what's next. There is something that's next. Tap into it. Tap into
Mm.
your personal mature allure
Mm.
so that you can do whatever it is you want to do in this mature midlife stage.
Awesome.
Hmm.
Awesome. I just remembered something else. Last night, I came across a video of a woman. She's 80 years old and she is a world champion weightlifter. Okay.
Yeah.
This woman, retirement came around and she's like, I can't, she was a realtor and she said she would struggle going up the stairs, shortness of breath, that kind of thing. And she went to a birthday party and was introduced to a friend's husband who is a trainer.
Hmm.
And she said, I'm going to go to the gym and see if maybe he can help me with losing some weight. And he got her into just, I think the first thing he had her do was lift a broom, just a broomstick, because he was so afraid. And she's like, no, I want to lift some weights. And the next thing you know it, this lady is, doing it now for how many years and world champion in different classes and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, what? So yeah. So,
She tapped
you
into
know what?
her.
We're
Yeah,
older, we're not dead.
exactly. And what she did was she tapped into her
Yes.
mature allure. That's
Yes.
her thing.
Yeah, that's
And
her
she's
thing.
doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and inspiring young women too along the way is what
Hmm.
she said, what she talked about a lot. So
Hmm.
I know it's been a little bit over a year, and for me, this podcast journey, it is bumpy. We've I have stops and starts and slow downs, and things like that. But for you, what kinds of challenges have you had to overcome over the last year? Producing the podcast.
Well, one of the challenges, we had an unexpected move. My husband relocated. We got
Yes.
relocated. So that kind of put a monkey wrench in some things. But it also, when I first started this, I set goals for myself. I'm like, I had a friend that had done a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And her whole plan initially was she's out there just doing it, doing it, doing it, and got tired. And so what her advice for me was, Sherri, look, don't plan on doing an episode every day. Don't do this, whatever. Find something and figure out when you want to upload or when you want your episodes out there and do that consistently. So
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Ooh, you know what? I'm going to upload once a week." And so I started doing that. And it worked because I was pre recording my episodes, but it's
Right.
also kind of exhausting. Because in the beginning, had my calendar out there, hey, set a date, whatever. And I found myself
Yeah.
11 o'clock on Monday, 9 o'clock in the evening, because somebody's in Australia on Thursday.
Mm.
So I decided, look, no, I'm going to just do Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Wednesdays and Thursdays
Mm-hmm.
and set that up. And then it was just a matter of trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
If just to be honest, to give you the whole background, when I first started this, I went to someone else to be my co host. And just laying the foundation, we did that together. But it was rocky.
Mm.
And she pulled out right before we were set to launch.
Wow. Wow.
On the one hand, it was like, what? This is crazy. And, things like this can happen.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, because I believe in pivots, you always have to have plan B, C, D, whatever. It was like, you know what? It's been rocky. I'd rather her pull out now before we start,
Right. Right.
because then I can reshift. It's my own thing.
Yes.
Yes, we're not going to launch in March. We're going to launch in April now, or
Yeah.
I'm going to launch in April.
Yeah.
So I didn't know anything about And one of the arguments that she was having was, what do you know about podcasting? Well, nothing. Who
Mm.
does? But
Yes.
that's a lot of life. There's a lot of information out there. If you want to start
Mm-hmm.
something, you do it. So just pivoting, um,
It pushed you. It pushed you to get
it pushed
going.
me,
Mm-hmm.
just knowing that I'm going to put out an episode a week. Moving, when we moved, that was a lot going on, and that showed me, hey, you need to take a hiatus. You
Mm-hmm.
can't do this. There's a time where you could just stop having episodes upload. That's what they do with TV.
Right.
you know?
Right. Right.
So it's been just trial and error and learning and modeling, um, my show like you would model kind of like a TV show series. This, episode,
Episode
just
this or seasons. Yeah. Makes
yeah.
sense. Yeah. Yeah.
So just kind of pushing through it and figuring it out.
The people, the naysayers, when you said you wanted to do this, who were saying, I don't know if this is going to work. What are they saying now?
Well, it's funny because some are saying, "Oh, wow, this is great," or "I knew it would be Sherri, it would be you," because the ones that do know me and know me how I am, this is not my first business. This is
Hmm.
like 17th. But, they know that I'm going to push through and do. There have been some that haven't said anything,
Hmm.
because what can they say?
Yeah. Yeah. You're doing it. You're doing it. You proved them
Yeah,
wrong. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Um, so, how do you keep the standard going? How do you, and because you said people reach out to you to be guests on the podcast, and not everybody's a good fit. I've had people reach out to me that I've had to turn down and say, I'm sorry, but I don't know that we're a good fit, and or we're at the right place for this, for what you have to offer right now. So how do you keep that balance so that you don't lose your audience, that you can maintain the mature allure? How do you do that?
Um, oh,
Anything regarding topics? Do you are there specific topics that you stay away from? Things that you think that you try to maintain? Do you have like a set of categories, if you will, of topics that you go to?
I have thought on that, but because what I found doing this so far is there are a lot of women who are in transition and transfer, like a transformation.
Mm-hmm.
So the lives that they were living 10 years ago, things have changed. They don't feel that way. I had a guest, and it's one of the more popular episodes.
Mm-hmm.
She's married, husband, religious. I think her parents were pastors and things like that. Her son got sick, and she realized in those moments, in helping to take care of him,
Mm-hmm.
she didn't want to live how she had been living. And she's pansexual. Now, for me, she was living a life, mom, wife, child. Um, I learned from not just that episode or interviewing her, at this age and stage, everything is open to us.
Mm.
There are some people, like her life, she was living this life that really wasn't her. This new life, this is her. It's not for me to judge. It's not for me to,
Right.
this is her new life. And this is making her happy. And this is her transformation at this stage. And a lot of women are going through transformations. It's all kinds of transformations. So when it comes to the topic, what I try to do is frame it around, like I was saying before, the Mature Allure tap into your personal thing.
Hmm.
I can't say just yet that there are topics that I won't cover because, yeah, one day I would like to have, like I said, some of the people from the Mature Allure's other side on my show.
Right. Right.
Because there are women who are 40 plus who are involved in
A lot
everything.
of different things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then there are people who are considering it, who are thinking about it, who might not know anyone that can guide them into it. I had a woman on the show that she's a cuddle therapist.
Hmm.
I found out about her from another guest on my show, where all she does, her business is cuddling, whether it's personal, group. She has all kinds of, but that's something that somebody might not have known about. And
Right.
the reason why a guest was telling me about it was this guest was not married. She didn't really have anybody in her life, but we all need a hug. We all need
Mm-hmm.
hugs.
Mm-hmm.
And so she found this person. And so, are there topics? I will say right now, no,
Okay.
because the what it is with brand, like you said, with branding, is the framing, the
Yes.
questions.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, and stating the reason for having that guest on, so your audience
exactly,
knows where you're coming from, and your audience, yeah, maybe there's an episode, maybe they listen to you consistently, but maybe there's an episode that, that's not for me. I'll
Ex-
come back the next one or something, So yeah, awesome,
exactly.
awesome. So I know I hear you throughout all of this. I mean, you started this when you were younger, really, with the name in that little section of your magazine. So um, do you agree with that? That you are woven throughout this, through Mature Allure? You're yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. I think I am because one, I'm the one going after the guests. And I'm like wanting to ask them stuff.
Yes,
I try
yeah.
and think like maybe the audience, but at the same time there are things that I'm like, hey,
You
I want
want
to
to
know
get
about that
answers
too.
to. You're like, oh wow, cuddle therapy. I didn't know
Ex-
about that.
that that's exactly what happened, Karen.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
when she said it, we were in the midst of an interview, like you and I was
Wow.
like, what?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess it's like having a guest in your home, You just, yeah, yeah. So, okay. Awesome. Awesome. So we talked a little bit about your guests and how you pick them and all of that, do you do you no, no, I guess you answered that already. I was going to ask you if you wonder if your guests, if do you ever concern yourself that they're not going to connect with the audience, I think I know I was nervous. I listened to my episode. I was so nervous. I, you know,
I, I get that. I get a lot of people who are nervous, but you know what I found too, Karen? The episodes that I think people like, I'm like, oh yeah,
they're
mm-mm,
not. Yes,
mm-mm.
yes. This
So
is so true.
you just have
So
to put it out
true.
there.
Yeah, you just gotta do it. So yeah. So when it comes to marketing, telling the world about this, I remember when we did our episode, you told me you were just starting and you wanted to know about marketing, you wanted to know about branding, for yourself and to educate your audience. How has that been? How's social media been for you? And getting the word out.
It's slow.
Mm,
Um, I think it's slow because I just don't have the strategy yet.
okay.
And social media to me is it's difficult. There's those algorithms and then all the things and stuff like that.
Hmm.
One of the things that I have done is, when you have a business, you're an entrepreneur and it's small, you do everything.
Right.
And so I'm trying to branch out of the doing everything. And I started using like Upwork, people
Hmm.
to do freelance. And I know that can be hard. I don't tend to go on LinkedIn for that much,
Hmm.
but using people to help me do things. So right now I'm working with a podcast manager. She's in the Philippines. And then I'm working with a social media person who's in Venezuela.
Wow.
And so they're actually working on my assets. Here's the thing: we don't have a set strategy, so to
Hmm.
speak. I did put together a content calendar. So we have, Wellness Wednesdays, Motivational Mondays,
Hmm.
the little
Just standard.
generic,
Hmm. Hmm.
but because it's so much, just getting them has totally helped me out a lot. It's helped a lot.
Yeah, I can attest to that. Without that kind of help, you drown. If you, especially if you're trying to manage the podcast, the episodes, the guests, the schedule, the
Editing.
communication, the editing, all of that good stuff. It can be. So, is this like so this is full time for you, the podcast? This is okay. Okay. Do
It's
you
full time
do?
for me.
Hmm.
I lost, how it even started was I lost two jobs in 30 days. I was one of those people who was working from home during COVID, and I
Hmm.
had a job working from home, and I got another job. And I had two salaries that was great. And then in 2022, I think it was, yeah, November 2022, I was told that December 1st was going to be my last day on one job,
Wow.
because here I am over 50. That's the other thing. That's the other reason why Mature Allure
Mm,
really jumped off. You'll find that a lot of people start losing their jobs. I have a lot of friends who are just like me right now that have lost their employ. And one of my friends, she's been with this company decades, let's say, but was
really?
recently let go. This is the time when people start letting you go. And both of my jobs told me that they were restructuring the department and eliminating my position. And it was within 30 days. So one job, it was December 1st was my last day. The other job was January 3rd, 2023. And so I went from two full-time salaries to
To
zero.
zero. Wow.
And I got out there and I'm hustling and I'm looking for doing interviews, all these things. And I just recently heard of those fake jobs that are in there, but fake listings and
Yes. Yeah.
so I'm out there, I'm doing interview after interview, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to get a job. And I found that what was happening was people were getting info from me. So they would say,
Mm,
well, what would you do if you had this situation? And what would you do if this was coming up? And what do
mm,
you think about this? And I'm just giving off info.
yes.
And then at the very end, I remember the guy was like, oh, wow. Oh, this is so great. I've written down all this stuff I hadn't even thought about. Like, he was just excited. I'm like, oh, I
You
got
were
this job.
helping them to build the position.
And that was the other thing. I
Yeah.
was I was being interviewed by, of course, everyone was younger than me.
Yes.
And then they were I would have to ask them, well, how long have you been on the job? If they were on the job less than 2 years, I'm not
Yeah.
giving
No.
any info,
Yeah.
because I'm helping you with your new job. And there were
Yes.
several interviews like that. And I think when the final straw was, I was on an interview and I still had Mature Allure. I was growing it because I'm at home, but I'm interviewing. I had two young ladies. We're doing a Zoom interview. They might have been 25 interviewing me. And one of
Hmm.
them asked me, where do I see myself in 5 years? I was like, okay, I'm over all of this.
Yeah. So this is a
And
boilerplate. She's probably reading off a list of questions to ask,
yeah. And do you see how old I am?
Yeah, exactly.
Where do you see me in 5 years?
Exactly.
So I just said to her, and I said, you know what? I'm starting my own podcast. I'm working on it. In 5 years, I see myself on a beach somewhere just talking. And they were like, ah, because I wasn't going to get the job
Right.
anyway.
Right. Right.
So, it's just, again, life and pivoting.
Hmm.
I've been able to do, my husband saw my struggle. And that's the other thing. I'm blessed to be in a position where I have a husband that's working, employed, and benefits. His
Hmm.
benefits were better than mine. I didn't even know it.
Right.
He works for the post office. He
Okay.
fixes, I didn't even know this. And so he said, Sherri, looks like you're not getting a good job.
Okay.
You might as well
Well,
put
I'm
all your
sure it
efforts
wasn't
in.
funny at the time, but
No, it
but
wasn't.
eventually, yeah, yeah.
He
Okay.
was like, just put all your time into Mature Allure,
Mm,
you
okay.
know?
Hmm.
So I am
Okay.
blessed to be able to do this full time,
Yeah.
but I do
Yeah.
understand if you're not, and it's a hustle and a job, and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So If you were to advise someone, if someone came to you and said, Sherry, I've been following your podcast, or I was one of those people who doubted you in the beginning and said, I don't know, this wouldn't work, but now that I see that you're doing it, I think I would like to try creating my own podcast. What would you tell them? What would you?
Go for it.
Okay.
Go for it, because I've never been one to, because so many people have crapped on my
Yeah.
dreams, and I
Yeah.
keep going. I always think that people should go for what they want to go for and do what they want to do. It is a lot of work. It's not for everyone.
Right.
I would suggest getting, like my friend said, a schedule. If you want to do once a week, twice, once a month, however you want to start out. One of the things too, it is your business.
Yeah.
You can kind of do what you want, but if
Hmm.
you want it to be successful, you do have to do some work.
Right. Yeah.
So I would say go for it.
Yeah. Okay. And you talked about having several businesses before, and you say as a young person you had a blog of, 5 for 5 years, that kind of beauty blog, that kind of thing. Do you see yourself doing anything else? Is it you have, do you what's the future for Mature Allure? What do you where do you see this podcast going?
It's so interesting that you asked me that, Karen,
Okay.
because I've been talking to a few people, and this is the other thing: when you go into business for yourself, and as you get older, at talking to people, getting advice, finding out, like you're asking me.
Mm-hmm.
I've been talking to a couple of business managers and people who have looked at the business or found it online, and they're call me up about working with me in some way or some another. And one of them suggested I start a nonprofit. And we talked about it. And so I'm in the early stages of starting a nonprofit, and it's called As We Age.
Hmm.
And what it is right now, Mature Allure is a podcast and a blog. It's at matureallure.net, everyone. But anyway, Mature Allure is a podcast and a blog. And we talk about, like I said earlier,
Everything.
everything over 40 for women so you can live your best life. With As We Age, though, the focus is going to be more so on mental health, addiction recovery,
Hmm.
and financial freedom.
Hmm.
Because there are a lot of women out there who are in my life who are struggling, not on the things, of course, menopause and all those things, and wanting to get your own business, hobbies, but there are other issues. Their money might not be there, or there might be a homelessness issue, whatever. There might be a drug issue, and there might be a mental health issue. How can we work with these women who are also in midlife so they can live their life better for their best life?
Hmm.
So that's the big picture of Mature Allure, because all women should be able to tap into what they have.
Okay. So do you see, so are you going to have a facility, or are you going to partner with a facility or facilities to offer these programs? What is
Initially,
what does it look like?
initially it's events, and the
Okay.
events are going to be like, I've met so many great women. The events are going to be tapping into women that I've had on the podcast that are doing certain things. Like I
I
have
see.
a woman that was the CEO of the McShin Foundation, which is a rehab.
Wow.
And I think it's on the West Coast. But I had her on last year to talk about addiction and dealing in family members and addiction during the holidays. And if you are an addict, and how family members should work with, if you're coming home from your rehab facility, to
Mhm.
spend time with family, whether it's a day, two, however long, how that works. So anyway, just having some of the women that I've had on the podcast participate in events that focus on that. I have a friend that does Reiki, Reiki healing, and just putting together events. It's going to start event wise, where
Mhm.
we can just speak to women who might think of Mature Allure in a frivolous manner right now.
Right. Right.
Who cares about
Right.
Mature Allure podcast if I'm hungry
Okay.
or if I'm dealing with this? Or
Yeah. If I have
they
serious
shouldn't,
issues,
yeah,
the
they
things that
shouldn't
I'm
be
dealing with. Yeah.
yeah, they shouldn't be discounted. So
Yeah.
how can we bring them into the Mature Allure movement?
Hmm.
So
I
yeah,
like that.
I am making
I like that.
more
I
plans to
like that.
build.
I
Yeah.
like that. That's actually awesome. Good job. Good job. And I'll be there supporting you.
Thank you. You'll
Yeah.
be at the
Listen,
event. How you can
I am no
even
longer.
even rebranding yourself, Karen,
Yeah.
because people think of branding in terms of business.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
as we get older and people are going through transformations, and
Yeah.
it's a new
Yeah.
branding,
Yeah.
personal
Yeah.
branding.
Listen, and things are moving so quickly too. Technology doesn't wait for anybody. I mean, AI is right here. It's not 10 years from now, it's here.
Oh yeah.
And we were talking about AI years ago. Movies, we saw things happening even when we were kids, with cartoons, with the Jetsons. you know yeah, Star
Yeah.
Trek, it's all here.
Yeah.
And how do you navigate life when things are moving so quickly and you seem to be at a standstill? So
Hmm.
awesome, really good stuff. So, every guest on my podcast is actually a guide. I call myself the chief guide at Guiding Brands. And every guest on this podcast is actually, I've recruited you all to be a guide. So, as a guide, how would you, or what would you like to share with the audience in terms of, you just talked about, going after whatever it is that you're thinking that you want to do, but is there anything in particular that you would want to advise people now in terms of branding, themselves, and from your experience, and branding their product or service or whatever it is that they're trying to do? Anything that you would want to
Hmm.
share
I
from your
would
experience?
I would probably say the thing that most people have said. Um, don't take too much stake into what your friends and family say.
Mm,
Now, outside of the friends and family circle, find people who are interested in the things that you're interested, who are doing the things that you're doing. Um, I wouldn't necessarily you have to say you have to join networks or anything like that, but get an idea, a taste for it. Look at YouTube. There are people out there doing all of the things that you might even be interested in, and find out some. Listen to their stories.
mm-hmm.
Listen to your podcast. Listen to podcasts really too,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because here's the thing: it's hard, it's stressful if you have starting out and doing what you want to do, and to have people around you that are going to be, and my brother, let me say, this is a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
We have always joked on each other years, like, all of that. Every day he's like, what are you doing? He'll call me up. What are you doing? Well, I'm doing, Sherri, yeah, you're nothing. But at the same time, he's like, he'll see something I have on my social and say, oh, I saw that you have this or that.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that he knows that I'm really working and pushing and doing what I'm doing. But some people have family members and friends who don't and will not believe in them.
Yes. Yeah.
Just because, and it's not because of you. It really is because of them.
Yeah.
This isn't something that they would do.
Mm-hmm.
This
Mm-hmm.
isn't something, a leap of faith they would take.
Mm-hmm.
So don't take it personal. Let them say what they have to say, but you go and find those that are working in that space that you want to be in, because they're
Mm-hmm.
going to give you the encouragement. They're going to show you what you need to do. They're going to share information. And along the way, you'll just learn how to get it done.
Yeah. Yeah. My guest this morning, he talked about being vulnerable. A lot of times, we tend to hold back. We're reserved. I know I am. It's a challenge sometimes. I mean, I preach, I teach people to go out there, put themselves out there, but it's not something that I
It's
naturally
not easy.
would do myself. So, yeah, so it's a mindset shift then that you're suggesting. Just change
Mhm.
the way that you look at things, and um, listen, people, hearing my voice or seeing me right now, listen to what Sherri said. Just if you have an idea, if there's something that you want to do, or you don't even know what you want to do, listen to podcasts like Mature Allure. Check out, YouTube and search, for that thing and think about the things that you love. And, it could turn into a fabulous podcast like Sherri's. Sherri, this has been awesome. I thank you so much. One last thing that I'm going to ask you to do is to just tell everybody where they can find you online, and they can listen to the podcast, where they can connect with you on social.
Well, it's easy for people to go to Mature Allure, MatureAllure.net. And
Hmm.
when you go to matureallure.net, you'll see contact information for me. You'll also see, if you're interested in being a guest, you can click on the link on one of the nav bars and just
Hmm.
on the link on the nav bar and just kind of shoot me a message and let me know what you do and what you want to do. The podcast is there, the episodes
Hmm.
are there, and the blog is there.
Hmm.
So matureallure.net. That's
Hmm.
me.
Awesome. I'll have all that in the show notes. And I'm going to also suggest that you subscribe to Sherri's newsletter. It's one of the things that I look forward to myself. I get it in my inbox. And if you don't have time right away to listen to a podcast, the newsletter will give you a synopsis of what's going on. And when you get a chance, you can go in and click through to it. So thank you again, Sherri. This has been a really enjoyable conversation. And you're a natural at this. I don't know why you were afraid to talk when you were nervous about this. You did great.
Well, thank you so much, Karen. I love that I'm on here. This is my first, and yeah,
Yeah.
maybe it's a bug. I like it. Thank you,
Yeah.
Karen.
I'm having an issue here. What's going on? Why is this? Hmm. Something's up here. I have an issue. Sherri, we may need to I'm gonna have to end it abruptly because for some reason I don't have my end my stop recording button is gone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it just keeps saying starting.
Oh,
This
and
is
it's still
weird.
recording, but
Yeah,
yeah, good
let's see
thing,
what happens. Just so
Okay.
we don't have to do this again. Okay. All
Thank
right.
you for reminding me about the newsletter, by the way. I got to send that out. It's been a
Okay.
couple weeks.
Okay. All right.
All
We're
right.
gonna put this all in the bloopers. Let's hope that we
Exactly.
don't lose this recording. This is crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not giving me the chance to
Oh, I
to
hope
end the
not. Well, if you need us
episode.
to do it again, which is a pain in the butt for
Yeah.
you, for me, I'm good. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's see. All right. Let's see. I'm gonna end session for all and see what happens. That's all for this episode of the Guiding Brands podcast. I look forward to sharing with you again next week, so please don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Thank you, and bye for now.